going on, everybody? Welcome to another quick cast here on the ADOM Facebook page. It's Friday afternoon, and yes, we're not having like an award ceremony like it was last month, which was so much fun. But what a great afternoon as you kind of wrap up your week, keeping busy out there in dental practice, to have a phenomenal guest on today with a great topic. So today's quick cast is brought to you by Henry Schein One, and we are very, very excited to have Dana Johnson, who is a speaker, author, certified dentrix trainer. I know so many of you out there in ADOM Nation know Dana and the great work that she does in our profession. She's the founder and CEO of Navoni. Dana, happy Friday.
Hey, TGIF.
Yes.
I'm happy.
Yes. I love it. So this is a quick cast. So we're going to go maybe about 25 minutes. Today's title is Creating a Touchless Patient Check-In and Check-Out. So something very popular nowadays as more and more practices, I think, are not only finding ways to be able to let their patients know that they're being safe, but also, as I'm sure you're going to share, the efficiencies that this creates and the nice customer services that this creates for both the patient and the practice. So before we get into a lot of the content, love to have you share. We got a lot of new ADOM members out there, which is exciting. So for those of you that don't know you and all of that, love to have you share.
Absolutely. Thank you, ADOM and Henry Schein One, for having me on. This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm super excited to dive in. But a little bit about me. Many of you know me. I've seen you at lots of the ADOM conferences over the years, and I've worked in 2 dental practices. So, I've lived in your shoes for many, many years, 25 plus years, which seems like a long time. And then in my second dental practice, I helped them. I was a big advocate of technology. I'm kind of a technology geek. I crawl around on floors with screwdrivers and plug in computers. And when I started working in my second dental practice, they were using a very archaic computer system. And I finally got the doctor to upgrade. And so we upgraded our software to Dentrix in 2003. And then in 2005, I became a certified Dentrix trainer. And so now I'm going on my 15th year as a certified Dentrix trainer and speaker, author. I was the national blog writer for Dentrix for a long time and passed the torch on to another amazing trainer a couple years ago. So been in the dental industry my entire life. And now it's Dentrix 24/7. So I love it.
Well, the good news is, I know we were just talking, you're actually starting to travel a little bit again, which is encouraging a little bit, and do some training and things like that. And I think that kind of ties in probably to what I know you want to talk about today, which is, what can practices do to create this, this touchless check-in and all of that. And I thought we would get started by just having you share what you think are some of the practice's biggest challenges right now around this topic.
Absolutely. I mean, this topic, I've been blowing up this topic, ever since March or April when we had we were all kind of shut down. And when, as practices started to open back up again, we really saw the light that we really needed to create this more contactless, touchless environment for our patients. And I think probably one of the biggest challenges I'm seeing out in the industry is that the offices and the doctors they kind of need to get out of their own way, in a sense, because, I was working with a doctor just the other day, and, we were going over his website. He just is launching his brand new website. He's very proud of his brand new website. And, so I'm looking on the website, and the only way that patients can get a hold of him is there's a phone number in the upper right corner of his website. So he's got his phone number out there, call to schedule an appointment. And then, you go to the new patient drop-down menu, and there's a link there that they can download the PDF forms. And I'm like, doctor, I'm like, we need to get you up in the times here. And he's like, Dana, I'm so old school. And I'm like, come on, get out of your own way. Let me help you, guide you into, what patients are asking for. And so I think people are a little bit still old school in the sense that they want patients to call them and they want to talk on the phone. And I think that's great. You want to build those relationships, but we kind of have to get out of our own way and up the technology game a little bit.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you and I are talking about before we went live here, which I love, is creating some breathing room, right? And I think this goes in line with exactly what you're saying, which is it seems like that so many of these practices, in order for them to get out of their own way, they need a little bit of space. They need to breathe. And I know technology does that for so many people, like you said, once you commit to it. So I'd love to have you talk a little bit about that and how some of the technologies are actually allowing exactly what you're saying to help the doctors and their teams or whatever get a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah. And, I also think that not only give them a little bit of breathing room, but also give them these seamless systems. I'm a systems girl. And when you have good systems that flow really well, you have better workflow in the practice, and you're creating these integrated systems that work so tightly together, then the experience, the patient experience and the practice experience are just so much more enhanced.
Yeah.
And that's what our goal is that we want to be able to give our patients this amazing experience. And, from the time they land on your website or they search for you on Google search, from the time you haven't even met them yet and you want to give them this amazing experience. And statistics are showing that patients want to communicate with our practices in an electronic way, and so we not only need to get out of our own way, but we need to be able to give our patients what they're asking for. And so when we're able to give our patients what they're asking for, and patients can communicate with our practices in a more convenient way for the patient, it's also more convenient for the practice.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to text message with a patient and multitask at the front desk, I mean, that's a good thing. You're able to stay off the phone. You can multitask with the, texting the patient. At the same time, the patient is happy because patients want to be able to text with the practice or, have that electronic communication. And so, yes. And also with so many other things, not only just communication with your patients, but also giving patients a more streamlined, easier, more convenient way to pay their bill and book an appointment. And, I think that's one thing that we have all learned just as human beings is technology has amplified tremendously over the past 7 months.
Yep.
We're communicating with our family in a more, technological way. We're booking, we're ordering food online, we're having food delivered to our house. And so your patients want to be able to communicate with you 24/7. And that's kind of what they expect. And when we give them what they want, it also makes it more convenient for the practice too.
So I was in a dental practice the last couple of days, and every single person in the waiting room had this.
Yes.
And so to your point, they're sitting there, they're waiting. And like you mentioned, it's, what a nice way to be able to communicate with them or what have you. So one of the things would love for you to share is what are some ideas, in regards to increasing the patient safety? Because as you know, Dana, it really feels like everything that's been going on in regards to the pandemic is in people's heads. And so, it's encouraging. We're seeing more and more from the great work that dental practices are doing all over the country to make sure that they're safe for the patients. So I think that's encouraging. But as you know, patients are still thinking about those things in their head, right, when they come into your practice, especially if they're a new patient.
Yeah.
So can you touch on some of the different things that a practice can do in order to be able to ensure that safety with check-in and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. What I see a lot of offices doing is they're having patients, call the office from the parking lot, and letting the office know, hey, I'm here in the parking lot. And then the office lets the patient know if the waiting room is clear enough for the patient to come in. And then the patient comes in, but then they might have to fill out new forms or something like that. If the office had a way that they could just send the patient a link to their mobile phone that they already have in their hand, send the patient a mobile link that says, here's your forms. You can fill them out right from the comfort of your car. And then as soon as we get those forms back into our software, then we're gonna have you come up. So there's patient portal, so that you can direct the patient right to the patient portal, so the patient can check in that they're there in the parking lot. And then with payment, I've noticed from a few offices that they've been very hesitant to touch credit cards or cash or things like that. And so you can also let your patients know that you can create a touchless or a contactless payment system. So there's a couple different ways you could do that. Some offices would be able to store credit cards on file. So then you would just have the patient's consent, so that you could have their consent, run their credit card through without touching the card at all. And then you could email the patient a receipt. Another thing that's brand new, at least with Dentrix, is electronic statements. So now we can send the patient an email statement, so that, if the patient has a copay today, we could say, great, we're going to just shoot you a billing statement right now. You're going to get it in your inbox. You can just click the Pay Now button, and you can pay it from the comfort of your mobile phone or from the comfort of your own computer. Yep. And so that's another way that offices can create that more security around, passing credit cards or money back and forth. That's another great way too.
I love that, because as you know, that's not only efficient for the patient in the world that we live in now. I think a lot of the big companies that, Amazon, all that we use, like, they've spoiled everybody, right, in regards to making that stuff easy. Yes. But as you know, like you said, for the dental practice side, I mean, how many times, Dana, have you seen it in the dental practice where there is AR out there, and making it easy for the patients to pay? They just forgot, they got busy, going through a pandemic. And so them, being able to utilize, like you said, those e-statements and quick ways to pay, I mean, what a great way to speed up cash flow. And like you said, the patients are used to that now.
They are.
They're used to it. And I thought about something fun when you were talking about that. If there's anybody out there watching right now that still has a patient pay with cash, could you please take a picture of that and post that in the thread? I'm sure maybe it happens somewhere, but you're right. I mean, this is the new way. And it benefits both people, benefits the patient, also cash flow for the practice.
And there's so many ways that you can integrate a contactless payment system. And I think it's good that you can ask your patients, what's going to be the most convenient way for you to communicate with us? We can have a patient portal on the website, so a patient could log into their patient portal. I know I use patient portals all the time. I manage all my daughter's healthcare. And so being able to log into the University of Washington patient portal, so I can see my daughter's appointments, and I can message the doctor, and I could pay her bill. Having that all in the patient portal is so convenient for me. And I know that other people would appreciate that. So having the patient portal is super convenient for patients. If they don't like the patient portal, then they could communicate. They could pay their bill with that e-statement through an email. They could keep a credit card on file, so then they don't even have to receive a bill. They just give the office authorization to run their card. So there's so many different ways that we can accommodate our patients, streamline the system for our practice. And now we've created this amazing experience for our patients. We've given them what they want and what they're asking for. And then those payments get downloaded and deposited right into your software. So that even makes it more convenient for the practice. So there's just so many amazing things that are happening right now with technology. And I'm just excited to talk about it and get it integrated into all the practices.
Yeah, it feels like, when you think about Henry Schein One and a lot of the great things they've done, it feels like for so many of these software companies, they had a lot of these features built in going back to the beginning of this year, if not before then. And
Right.
when the offices had a time to breathe a little bit, it wasn't the best way to shut down their practice. Nobody wants to shut down their practice. But as you know, when they were forced to do that, it gave them some time to really dig in to look at a lot of these features. And I don't know what you saw, but a lot of the feedback that we got from everybody was, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff here, and it all connects, right? Like it all, like the e-statements connect with getting in touch with the patients, with getting paid, all those things. Streamlining those systems is so important. And I'm just curious on your thoughts of what you've been seeing with a lot of the people, that you talk to in regards to really embracing the technology. And it just feels like they're starting to make it work the way that it should work.
Yeah. And so when we were shut down, what I decided to do, because I wasn't traveling, I wasn't able to go into a practice. So what I was doing is I was doing these types of Facebook Lives. And, I would do an hour and a half or so in the evening. And I would have 400 or 500 people on these Facebook Lives. And I was talking about these types of contactless, creating a touchless environment in your practice. Let's start right now while we're shut down for 6 weeks or however many weeks. Now is the time when we can really start researching and implementing these types of touchless systems in our practice. And I'll never forget, I don't know, a couple of weeks after I had this Facebook Live, people must have been really excited because all of a sudden I saw this email come through from Henry Schein One, and they were actually looking for trainers to volunteer as a e-services trainer because they were so flooded with people wanting to implement these e-services. Because you're right, when things are busy and going smooth and our practice is running great, we don't really think about integrating e-services. But then all of a sudden now your patients are like, I'm not going to touch, I'm not going to come into that practice. I need to be able to do something more electronically. And so it kind of all really hit very quickly because we really needed to implement technology in order for us to communicate with our patients, fill our schedule, and be able to collect money. And without patients actually having to come in the practice. So it didn't really open people's eyes very quickly. And I was glad to see that because I love technology. And so I was very happy to see people really responding well to all those new systems.
Can you talk about technology is great and all of that. And as you know, in a dental practice, I think sometimes one of the hardest things for a dental practice that I've seen for them to get accustomed to technology is because it's such a family feel, right? As you know, practices like to connect with their patients, they like to talk to their patients, like all those things. And so this transition to moving their patients to a lot of the different technology features, as you know, was challenging for a lot of practices because they felt like they were going to lose that connectivity. Can you talk about the practices that have been able to still maintain that feeling that they want to get with their patients and stay close to them, but are leveraging the heck out of the technology and making it work on both sides?
Yeah, what I hear from offices sometimes is, we have a real elderly population in our practice, and we don't really think that they'll respond well. And I'll never forget, in my own practice, many years ago, this was even before this technology boom, I was about to integrate the electronic forms. It was when Dentrix just first came out with the electronic forms. And so we had them up on the website, and I remember sending the link to a new patient, and I think he was in his 70s. And I'll never forget when he walked in the door and he said, "I love the electronic forms. They were so easy to fill out." And I'm like, yes, I was so happy because, to hear from someone that was in their 70s, had a really easy time filling out the form, I knew that it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And of course you do have some exceptions. There are some patients that just don't know how to use computers or have a tough time. But nowadays, Another story was I was working with a practice in Spokane, and we were also doing electronic forms. And I remember I had 25 people on the team, ranging in ages from 25 to 70 years old. We all got out our mobile phones and we all filled out the electronic forms from our mobile phone sitting in the waiting room. Yeah. And so everybody got to experience that. So I think another thing that offices can really do is put yourself in the patient's shoes. Mm-hmm. Walk yourself through this electronic pathway and see how it feels to be a patient. And that really will give you a better insight as to, okay, I know what my patients are going through, and I know it's okay. I know how I can walk them through how to do this. And so that really helps a lot to engage in your own system so that you understand what this patient pathway is. And that really helps too.
It's such great advice, right? Because when you're in a practice, it's like you lose sense of the fact that you are a consumer as well, right? You are a patient as well. Mm-hmm. And you get in your mindset of the day-to-day operations of the practice, and it's easy to forget that. But I mean, I think that's such great insight. Yeah. So I do believe that there is an ebook link that has been put inside the thread as well, or I know the ADOM team is going to go ahead and do that to make available a link.
Yes.
Where are some other places that people can learn more about Henry Schein One and some of the things that you've talked about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So that ebook just got finished a few weeks ago. I spent some time writing it over the summer, and then Henry Schein got it all made it all pretty, and it's all ready to go. So I'm excited to launch the ebook. So there's a few different ways. If you want to reach out to me, you know how to get a hold of me, and I can send you information on probably one of my favorite thing that Henry Schein One just came out with is online booking. I told my doctor that was so old school. I said, okay, right next to your phone number in the upper right corner of your website, we're going to have an online booking button right there. Yeah. And he's like, Dana, you're getting me out of my comfort zone. I'm like, yes, that's my job. And so the ebook has some phenomenal information in it. I have a personal link I could send you to the online booking that's available. If you go to the Dentrix website, there's an online booking link. That's amazing. I just did a webinar Wednesday on the payment processing. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that they will be putting that recording up also for the contactless payment and the e-statements. So that was really good. We did that on Wednesday, recorded that on Wednesday. So yeah, lots of great stuff. And then on my YouTube channel, I have lots of good little videos too.
I love it. So it's magic. It's like we're doing this interview and I look over and the ADOM team put up the ebook link. So it's already done. They went ahead and put that in the comments thread. And this is great stuff. Well, Dana, I want to thank you so much. I know so many people at ADOM appreciate you. You've done so much for the profession. And I think, like you mentioned, we're living in this time right now where there cannot be enough information, right? People like yourself out there connecting with practices, helping them get over the hump. Like you mentioned, there are practices that embrace technology right away and they run with it. And then there's a host of them that are still learning, trying to figure out ways to integrate. And there's really no better way than I think to have somebody like yourself that's talking to practices on a weekly basis, working with companies like Henry Schein One and your experience with Dentrix to move the profession forward so that ultimately it gets easier for the practice and easier for the patient. So I want to thank you for coming on today. And it's Friday, so I hope you have an amazing weekend. And same thing to all of you out there that are watching. Have an amazing weekend. And thanks again, Dana.
Thank you. Thank you to ADOM and Henry Schein One. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Awesome. Take care.